Did you know that the famous Milani baked blushes are actually sun-baked on Italian terracotta? Welcome to the Cosmetic Chronicles, the podcast where history meets beauty and tells the amazing stories behind some of the world's most notorious brands. I'm your host, Sarah Carvalho, and I'm a beauty journalist who has been obsessed with makeup since my first swipe of mascara. In this episode, we're covering Milani Cosmetics, a drugstore brand that was one of the first affordable brands to cater to people of color due to their origins in East Los Angeles and their desire to reflect the cultural diversity of that neighborhood. So let's start with little Sarah's story. I remember seeing Milani in drugstores for many years, but I don't think I actually picked up a product until maybe 2015, 2016. I was headed to a music festival and I really wanted a purple matte lipstick. I know that's so specific, but I just wanted something that would kind of be like a fun, I don't know, music festival color. And I wanted it to last throughout the long day because it was going to be warm. It was in the summer. And obviously music festivals are, years long. So I wanted something that would last. So I went to the drugstore and I think I was just looking at all the lipsticks, and I eventually grabbed the Color Statement matte lipstick from Milani in the shade Matte Glam. Oh my gosh, it is beautiful. I still own it. That's probably gross, but it is a beautiful, beautiful formula. I loved the sleek packaging. The color payoff was amazing and it lasted all day. And then once, social media became a thing, I decided to dabble in their baked blush because that was always the thing that I had heard. And specifically in Luminoso, that's I think a fan favorite, and was immediately impressed. It was one of the nicest blushes I've tried. Plus, I had never tried a baked formula before. So ever since then, I've been slowly trying a little bit of everything from their line. And I will, of course, be making some visual content over on my Instagram at Glow and Flow by Sarah. So make sure to follow me over there. I'll be doing a reel featuring Milani's iconic products and then also my well-loved and worn-in lipstick. I'll show you what it looks like over there. And of course, we're going to talk about the iconic products later on in the episode and pretty much throughout the episode. But first, let's just go back to the beginning. Milani was technically founded back in 1986, though not under the name we know today. It started in, like I mentioned earlier, East Los Angeles, with a brand called Jordana Cosmetics. Now, this brand was created by someone named Ralph Bijou, and the goal of the cosmetics line was to make quality makeup accessible for everyone, especially for communities often overlooked by the mainstream beauty industry. Then, in 2001, was the actual launch of Milani underneath the Jordana Cosmetics line. So this launch was led by Ralph's sister, Lori Mink, who was actually a former elementary school art teacher who decided to turn her creative eye and love of color toward beauty. So the family saw this gap in the market for makeup that felt luxurious but was still accessible and designed with multicultural consumers in mind. So that idea from the gap in the market became Milani Cosmetics. This was Jordana's elevated sister brand, known for its rich pigments, elegant packaging, and what the industry calls a prestige approach. Now, I'll be saying that a lot in this episode, prestige. That is a combination of mass beauty and prestige. The name Milani was actually chosen to evoke the fashion capital elegance of Milan, Italy, signaling that high fashion inspiration, while still being built in East LA with a mission of inclusivity and accessibility. And the name Milani itself means from Milan. And just a little side note, to this day, they still create their products in both the US, but also in Italy. The purpose of the brand was not only to create accessible products for all different types of consumers, it was also to democratize prestige luxury beauty. They felt like even if you wanted to not have to pay those high luxury prices, you still deserved high quality in your cosmetics. So I'm saying all this right at the top because this is something they still are very vocal about, this deep DNA that Milani has about attainable luxury and quality and diversity is still something that they lean very, very heavily on, even to this day, 20-something years later. So how did they actually do this right from the beginning, right from 2001? They decided to come out of the gate with colors that could work on many different skin tones, which was really unheard of in 2001 from a company not named MAC Cosmetics, pretty much, especially in the drugstore. This was not something that was common in the drugstore. So they have a team at Milani that is as diverse as the consumer base, and they actually test it on each other to make sure that they have the right pigmentations and undertones for a bunch of different skin types. So that was something they started to do right at the very beginning. And in a recent interview, their current CMO, Jeremy Lowenstein, mentions this by saying, quote, "Over the past 5 to 10 years, brands have been playing catch up in showcasing a broader range of shades in their portfolio. And this has been a part of Milani's ethos since day one. We're now at the size where we're able to talk about it, and TikTok has helped really amplify that message. We have 45 shades of foundation. We have 18 shades of concealer," end quote. So it's actually really hard to find early Milani information. They seem to have a very similar beginning to e.l.f. Cosmetics, where they did not focus heavily on advertising. They still really don't. Celebrity ambassadors, they still really don't. But because of that, there's not a lot of physical evidence of like launch dates and the first releases and when they started entering drugstores. And they worked to keep those prices down, which meant they relied a lot more on word of mouth versus any kind of like traditional advertising. So all I could really find that was between 2001 and 2010, Milani just built its identity quietly but steadily. So they expanded from lipsticks and eyeshadows into full face makeup. They continued to create Italian-inspired packaging and developing what would become cult favorite formulas, including their baked formulas, their baked blush and their baked bronzer, and then their Conceal and Perfect foundation. So these are the two, I'd say, most original hero products for them. This is when I think people really started to pay attention. Let's just pause for a moment and chat about this baked blush. So this was one of their earlier products, and it has become, without a doubt, one of their hero products. It is something that people still talk about. I still talk about it as one of my favorite blushes. And for those of you who may not know this, what I'm talking about, their baked blush is a powder blush formula that is sun-baked on Italian terracotta. And it promises to give your face that lit from within glow with a very like weightless, velvety, soft formula that also builds. It has a really beautiful marbling effect on it. So when you look at photos online, you'll see a mix of the pigment plus maybe a little highlighter shade depending on the color, but it isn't glittery. There's no sparkle on your face. It just has this really lovely luminous glow. And like I said in the beginning, Luminoso is a fan favorite, especially since the color is similar to the infamous NARS Orgasm, but it works for me. So if you are in my boat where the NARS shade doesn't work for you, try Luminoso. But I dare say it's better than a lot of high-end luxury blushes that tend to be a little bit dustier. This one is just a very lovely to use, lovely to look at blush, and it's often listed as editors and makeup users' favorites every single year. And then their Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation and concealer was another one. This was released somewhere around early 2016, I believe. So this is a liquid foundation that also claims to act as a concealer, hence the 2-in-1 name, but it became a cult favorite for its wide range of inclusive shades. So it has a medium to full coverage with a kind of a natural matte finish, which again was very 2016. And people still praise it for its affordability and staying power. So Milani was slowly growing a devoted following and saw their brand begin to find more areas of expansion as they moved into the mid-2010s. Here's a quote from their co-founder, Lori Mink, about these early days as a homegrown brand that moved into a different level of success. Quote, "We built this brand step by step as a family business. My brother Ralph was also key to building the business. It was one step at a time, and always with an extreme focus on quality. People organically started to notice our high quality product, and this led to more and more interest and growth in the brand," end quote. Through the 2010s, Milani evolved from a quiet drugstore favorite into a scaled, globally distributed prestige brand. And a lot of that was due to their focus on the millennial customer specifically. In a 2016 article from drugstorenews.com, they mentioned how Milani instantly recognized their target audience and built their brand around them. The article states that if ever a beauty brand resonated with the times, it's Milani. In an age of increasing diversity and inclusivity, and a time when millennials and multicultural consumers have emerged as major buying forces, Milani is making the right moves. The product lineup offers hundreds of shades and high-tech, specialty store-level formulas that its audience demands, and all at an affordable price point that appeals to this price-sensitive customer. And this definitely seemed to be working for them since their sales and influence picked up some real steam from 2016 onwards. In fact, in a 52-week Nielsen period that ended on April 9th, 2016, it showed that Milani's sales growth rate was outpacing the category by more than 3 times. And during this time, the brand started rolling out more products to include lip, eyes, and highlighter. Some notable launches included the Amore Matte Lip Cream, which began as a limited edition debut in August of 2015 and was later expanded to its core line. This is still available. And another notable launch for them was the Make It Last Setting Spray, Prime, Correct, and Set. This was launched in 2017. Now, we'll talk about the setting spray a little bit more later on because it had a bit of a resurgence in 2020. But for now, we'll just say that it was released in 2017. And actually, 2017 is a pretty big year for Milani since they announced, along with the setting spray, that there would be 15 new products specifically designed for customability. So here's a quote from their press release in 2017. Multicultural cosmetics powerhouse Milani Cosmetics unveils today a collection of 15 groundbreaking new formulas to further enhance their beauty offerings, celebrating individuality and unique beauty. Inspired by their passionate customers, the brand expands its range of affordable yet luxurious high-performance formulas for the face, eyes, and lips, with every cosmetic persona in mind. With Milani's arsenal of color cosmetics covering the trends of sculpting, strobing, contouring, and highlighting, beauty lovers can anticipate a completely personal makeup application experience. Users can embrace all their beauty identities by creating looks using the following tools and solutions individually, together, or with existing Milani favorites. End quote. So again, remember, this is 2017. This is when we're doing all this stuff. We're sculpting and strobing and contouring and baking, and we're doing all the things. So a big part of their strategy seems to be listening to the consumer and creating products that they're asking for. And I think that might be one of the major reasons why they're still a brand that people can rely on. So by the end of 2017, they had included additional products like their light lifting concealer. They came out with 2 different primers, one for a light strobing effect and one for correcting redness. Along with the Make It Last setting spray, they also have a Make It Dewy setting spray, which helps with hydrating and illuminating. They had a contour and highlight cream and liquid duo. They had a face and eye strobe palette, an instant glow powder, a few waterproof liquid eyeliners, and a 17-hour wear liquid eyeliner and a vinyl liquid eyeliner. So again, like I said, this was 2017. It was full beat Kardashian YouTube tutorial makeup. So all of this makes sense as to the fact that they were leaning into the trends of the time. So here's another quote from CEO Lori about this massive collection expansion in 2017. Quote, "We pride ourselves on our ability to consistently produce top-notch affordable cosmetics, and we feel confident that this year's collection will give our consumers the tools they need to embrace their inner beauty. Over the last few years, makeup application has become a true art form. In a world where individualism is now celebrated instead of demoralized, we hope to make everyone feel not only beautiful, but comfortable in their own skin." End quote. And by the end of 2017, the brand had earned $40 million, according to the Wall Street Journal, and was valued at $500 million. And Milani was already selling through all of the big mass retail stores in the US and wanted to continue that growth globally. So by 2018, they were available in 75 countries and expanded into Asia in 2019, launching in Singapore first. During this time, they also started leaning heavily into social media, shifting to a direct-to-consumer approach for its product launches. So instead of utilizing those traditional media channels where they used to announce product launches, they started sharing new release news to customers directly via social media. So for example, in December 2019, they worked with influencer Sophie Schaub of the Instagram account @TrendMood and the macro influencer Cameron Lester to debut new eyeshadow palettes through Milani's Instagram Live channel. So the goal of this new strategy was to create social media momentum to drive in-store retail sales once retailers like Target and Walgreens reset their shelves with product in late January. So the reason why they wanted to do this is they knew more than 50% of the brand's overall sales came from retail partners. And while people can go to the store and see what's available, they knew they wanted to use social media just to kind of help create a little pre-momentum, get people excited. And when the stores were fully stocked in January, they wanted people to be ready to go to purchase these new products. So this strategic change in how Milani was marketing to their customers was actually part of a larger shift within the entire company. In May of 2018, the private equity firm Gryphon Investors acquired a majority stake in Milani, making their first investment in the beauty sector. Up until this point, Milani was still a family-owned business, so this deal actually allowed Milani to lean into that prestige position by accessing additional capital, expertise, and distribution muscle via Gryphon and their investment. And with Gryphon's resources, Milani could also invest more in product innovation, more global expansion, and stronger digital omni-channel growth. So this backing signaled to the market that Milani was moving beyond kind of an indie-only status into a major player status. Even with this investment, Milani is still technically an independent brand, and Ralph and Laurie still hold significant minority stakes and are both on the board of directors. So despite having this investment, they still have that freedom to be independent. I don't know, sometimes I feel like when brands are acquired by like a L'Oreal or an Estee Lauder, sometimes it can dilute the brand a little bit. Not always, but sometimes, the money can help with certain aspects, but then if the brand kind of gets diluted, then what's the point? And I think this was a really smart move to get more investment into what they were already doing really well without having to completely shift the whole Milani DNA. So here's a quote from Ralph and Laurie about this acquisition. Quote, "We are delighted to partner with the team at Gryphon to help realize our dream of developing Milani into a great global name enjoyed by women everywhere. Gryphon's long-standing track record building consumer product brands, experience with family-owned businesses, and their beauty and channel experts were all critical considerations for us. They share our enthusiasm for our company, and their resources will ensure our ability to continue to deliver a world-class brand to our consumers for generations to come." End. With the new investment and consistent growth leading into 2019, the brand was really starting to branch out with more advertising, collaborations, and 360 marketing, including influencer marketing, social media campaigns, and in-person events. One of these collaborations included a collection with Salt and Peppa in February of 2020. I am furious that I missed this, but I think it may have gotten a little overshadowed by something called the global pandemic. But let's give it its time now because I can't believe I missed this collab. Okay, in case you don't know, so youths gather around. Salt and Peppa were a history-making rap duo from the 1980s, 1990s, comprised of rappers Cheryl James, who was Salt, and Sandra Denton, who was Peppa. Now, we don't have time, just go listen to them. But anyway, they had a very unique look to them. And so the duo worked closely with Milani to create a capsule collection inspired by the styles that became synonymous with their image in the 80s and 90s. So this collection came with 2 lip kits and 2 eyeshadow and highlighter palettes, with each one being named after the duo's hit songs. So one of the lip kits was called Push It, and it came with a bright red cream lipstick and liner. And the other lip kit was called Shoop, and it came with the same products but in a neutral brown color. And both kits featured vintage photos of the rappers taken during the height of their careers. The eyeshadow palettes, on the other hand, came in CD-like packaging. CDs are these flat discs that we used to use. And they're named after 2 of their most iconic albums, Hot, Cool, and Vicious, and Very Necessary. So here's a quote from Peppa, Sandra Denton. Quote, "Makeup has always been a form of self-expression for us. I love to experiment and play with different looks and have been a longtime Milani makeup user. My mother and sisters also use the brand, so this partnership took things full circle." And here's a quote from Salt, Cheryl James. Quote, Milani's message of diversity and inclusivity really resonated with us. It was extremely important for us to create products that represent us and are accessible to our fan base. I am just devastated that I don't own this. I'm going to be honest. Milani, can you pull this out of the vault, please? We didn't know it was February 2020. Like we weren't paying attention. Anyway, I mentioned this in particular because it does lead into the pandemic, which was obviously a very hard time for all beauty brands across the board, regardless of whether you were a drugstore or a high-end luxury brand. People were under lockdown mandates. Everyone is wearing masks, so people aren't really wearing makeup, and raw materials were in short supply. So the beauty industry was down 20% seemingly overnight, and Milani didn't wait long to take action. Enter Mary Von Prague, their new CEO. Now, Mary is a huge part of Milani's incredible success post-pandemic and truly their survival during that time because everyone was struggling. So we're going to focus on her for just a little bit. Mary came into the company with 30 years of global retail omni-channel leadership experience, including time at Coty, Revlon, and Johnson & Johnson. But again, Milani is still an indie brand. L'Oreal and Estee Lauder don't own her. So this was still a different challenge than anything she had faced before. And back in 2020 particularly, indie brands represented $30.5 billion in sales and were growing nearly 1.6 times faster than the total beauty and personal care market. So this is a different playing field than working for Coty or Johnson & Johnson. So Mary decided she needed to come in and strategize. In an interview with Forbes, she talked about doubling down on Milani's DNA as one of the most important steps she took. Here's what she said, quote, what I really appreciated when I first joined Milani was that the brand had withstood the test of time because it had a real DNA and purpose, explaining that the company stands for luxury quality at an affordable price for people of all color, end quote. What this means is continuing to give customers luxury quality regardless. So Milani products are actually made in the same high quality factories and with the same chemists as more expensive prestige brand products. This is actually very common. This is one of the reasons why I sometimes will not, unless I'm like dying for a specific shade or something. A lot of times these high-end luxury brands are making the same formula lipstick as like a drugstore lipstick. It's just that their packaging is more expensive. So Mary knew that this is something they had to continue doing, right? Because this was part of the DNA that she discussed, but also the fact that people come to Milani knowing that this is the kind of quality they're going to get with their products. And she specifically talked about the Milani Baked Bronzer and how it's specially made in Italy. And I thought this was really interesting. She says, quote, it's like an atelier. They hand knead the dough, add mica, bake it on terracotta tiles, then brush it off with a cloth before it's put in a compact, end quote. And she points out that higher priced brands like NARS and Chanel actually use a similar production process. So they're keeping the cost down by having slightly cheaper packaging. And Mary also knew she wanted to pivot back to the original core products. So when she joined in 2020, Milani was releasing a lot of skincare at the time. So she decided to pivot them back to their tried and true products and just find a way to reanimate them. So, for example, Milani decided to relaunch existing products and name new products under their largest franchise, Conceal Perfect. And they also wanted to make the Make It Last setting spray a little bit more pronounced in the industry. So they decided to invest in kind of additional testing, particularly because it was 2020 and people were starting to really focus on setting sprays. The people that wanted to wear makeup, even though they were wearing masks, were looking and seeking out setting sprays that would actually keep their makeup in place and not smudged underneath their mask. And they found Milani. And so they recognized that their customers were using this product more and more and were kind of talking about how well it was lasting. And so they were like, let's do some testing so we can get some actual numbers and then we'll use that in our marketing. And they ended up growing the setting spray franchise by 70% by doing this. And Mary said about reinvigorating some of the franchises, she said, quote, it's fewer, bigger, better. We don't need hundreds of launches. We just need meaningful ones, end quote. This is why I think Milani has stuck around. This is such a simple but smart statement. And I think it's incredibly accurate. And lastly, Mary really wanted to focus on in-store partnerships, which seems incredibly forward-thinking for 2020 since we all couldn't go anywhere. But she knew that when that time came, when we would eventually be able to go back into stores, that she wanted to really utilize those relationships. So in this Forbes interview, she used Ulta as an example, where she explained that Ulta was not Milani's largest customer, but it was their fastest growing one. And importantly, Ulta was the store where content creators most likely went to shop. So she said, quote, "We co-collaborate with each retail partner. With Ulta, we ideate the products that are trending in the market. We take all of our consumer data and we either advantage them with first to market or we create a product line specifically for them," end quote. And so what did all of this strategy Mary brought in do for the brand? Well, by 2024, it brought in 9 straight quarters of double-digit growth, record levels of profitability, an all-time high in market share, and $200 million in sales. All right, it's time for the rabbit hole of the week. Now, if this is your first episode, the rabbit hole of the week is something that happens organically every time I go to research one of these episodes. And sometimes it's directly related to the brand, sometimes it's brand adjacent, but it tends to just be something that I end up wanting to dig more about. And this week's rabbit hole is actually brought to you by some of the really cool campaigns that I saw that Milani has run in the past and continues to run, particularly from the last 5 years or so. So, for example, in 2021, the brand announced its Milani's Makers campaign. This was in honor of the brand's 20th anniversary and celebrating the community that has inspired the brand since its inception. So this campaign was all about illustrating the spirit of Milani through its brand advocates, who they called the Milani Makers. So to kick off the campaign, Milani actually made donations to 7 nonprofit organizations, each of which were chosen by a Milani Maker and represents the brand's mission to support causes that are changing the world. And here's a quote from CEO Mary about this particular campaign. Quote, "Our Milani Makers inspire us each day to continue to create products that make luxury accessible for all. On our 20th anniversary, it was important for us to recognize and support those who have always supported us. We are excited to elevate this dynamic group of innovative and passionate individuals," end quote. Another really cool campaign in 2022, Lo Harris, an artist, partnered with Milani Cosmetics to promote their popular anti-gravity mascara in the hashtag To You and Beyond campaign. So this was kind of a galactic, obviously anti-gravity is the name of the mascara, so they wanted galactic visuals to go along with it. So as part of the collaboration, Lo provided photo illustrations, assets to create AR filters, designs for the PR box, and even appeared in the campaign as talent, speaking on the benefits of the product. This is a really cool campaign. Do yourself a favor and just go check out Lo Harris and her work. It's so colorful and bright and beautiful, not just this particular campaign, but just all of her work. I've linked her website and her Instagram in the show notes, along with all the other references for this episode, but definitely go check her out. It's such beautiful art. And then in April of 2023, the brand announced their hashtag No Filter Just Milani campaign to help offset the nonstop pressure to create a flawless online persona. So they enlisted their Milani Makers here to flaunt some unretouched skin, both online and in real life, using the brand's best-selling Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation and concealer. And each Milani Maker actually shared a personalized hashtag. So they would create hashtags like no filter, just my skin, no filter, just my freckles, no filter, just my confidence, no filter, just my smile, all that good stuff. And I believe that a lot of their advertisements on social media around this time were also unfiltered and untouched. So here's a quote from their CMO, Jeremy Lowenstein, about this campaign. Quote, hashtag no filter just Milani encourages people to embrace the unique features they were born with, while still supporting the freedom to enhance their appearance using makeup as a vehicle of self-expression. With this, Milani invites everyone to feel confident in their own skin and know that they are not conforming to any standard. They are simply being the best version of themselves. Looking your best doesn't have to be achieved with digital filters or expensive makeup. With Milani, you can enhance your natural beauty with prestige quality products at an accessible price, end quote. All right, and the last cool campaign I wanted to talk about was their Face Set Mindset campaign, which was done in partnership with their Make It Last setting spray and 4 of America's top athletes. So they partnered with gymnast Jordan Childs, WNBA pro Sabrina Ionescu, Team USA volleyball gold medalist Chiaka Ogbogu. I'm so sorry, I'm butchering everyone's names. I'm so sorry, Ogbogu, and weightlifting champion Maddie Rogers. Obviously, they timed this perfectly to go along with the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics. So like I mentioned, when this setting spray was first launched in 2017, claims for the products were a bit more modest. But during the pandemic, the setting spray's popularity soared, propelling it from makeup artist's secret weapon to a must-have for everyday makeup users. And by April of 2024, it was actually the #1 setting spray in America. The goal of this campaign was to celebrate how a locked-in makeup look can help boost confidence and mentally prepare you for anything, whether that's mastering the everyday or competing at the highest level on a global scale. My friend Rachel always likes to say, look good, feel good, and I think that's pretty much what this is. This campaign is. So I'll end this rabbit hole with another quote from CMO Jeremy about this unique campaign. Quote, "This is a golden age for women's sports across the globe, and the brand couldn't be more excited to partner with this diverse group of top American athletes at this moment. The Face Set Mindset campaign highlights the connection between preparing ourselves physically and mentally for the day, and the idea that when our face is set, our mind will follow. Each of these inspiring champions embodies determination, endurance, and confidence, and we're proud to partner with and count them as part of our passionate Milani community." End quote. All right, let's quickly run through some of the icons. We've talked about a lot of these. So their baked blush and baked bronzer, of course, like still sun baking away on an Italian terracotta tile. If you haven't tried it, truly, please just grab one. They're so pretty. Their 2-in-1 concealer and foundation. We talked about this. They have 45 shades. I will be trying this as well. Another one of their iconic products is their anti-gravity mascara. And this mascara became really popular because it is supposed to give extreme volume, length, and lift. It is enhanced with castor oil and plant and fruit-based waxes, and it's supposed to have up to 24-hour wear, with 90% of people seeing instant length. So I'm excited to try that for sure. And also in their mascara, their highly rated lash extension tubing mascara is an iconic product for them. So if you're not familiar with the tubing mascara, it's a type of mascara that creates these little what's the word? They create these little tubes. That's the word, Sarah. They create these little tubes around your lashes. It's almost like a sealed coating. It sounds gross. It looks like mascara. I promise you wouldn't know. But basically, instead of just coating your lashes with pigment, it creates these little tubes around each lash so that you don't have to worry about smudging or streaking or anything like that. And then when you go to take off your makeup, you just have to kind of lightly roll the tubes off of your lashes and you won't have any like raccoon eyes or anything like that. I love a tubing mascara, but they are typically a lot more expensive. So the reason why this became very popular is that it was hard to find an affordable tubing technology mascara that actually works, has a luxury formula, and it has a performance that is on par with prestige brands, but is $14.99 versus $33 for an Hourglass tubing mascara, as an example. And another iconic product for them is actually their Fruit Fetish lip oil. And apparently it's America's #1 lip oil, which I didn't know and am thrilled to use. I did try this the other day, and I think the reason why people find it really lovely is that it's super comfortable. And then I just want to talk about my personal fave. So my matte lipstick, like I said, I love that lipstick. I have it in Matte Glam, and it is a really long-lasting matte formula, and it feels very luxurious, and I love that it cost me like $8. I also want to give a shout out to their Color Fetish Balm lipstick. So this, I have it in my hand right now. First of all, the packaging is so fun. It has this like textured tile packaging. This is what I talk about when I talk about drugstore packaging and how you can make something that isn't expensive but still looks chic. And I said a million times, they believe in luxury at an affordable price. This Fetish Bomb lipstick is a perfect example of what they're talking about. But this also has beautiful, beautiful payoff. So it's a lip balm. It's very hydrating. It has really good moisture and shine. But I really just need one swipe of it and it's there. She's there. But I personally want to give this a shout out, mainly for its packaging, but also because it's a really high quality product in terms of the formula. So let's talk some fun facts as we wrap up this episode. So like I said, Milani likes to draw on Milan's fashion and art heritage in both its packaging and its shade naming, and still makes a lot of formulas in Italy specifically. The consumer insights firm Civic Science found that while 39% of U.S. women familiar with Milani see the brand favorably, it rises to 49% among U.S. Hispanic women, and that 30% of the consumers are actually Latina. Makeup artists on shows like RuPaul's Drag Race and Euphoria have mentioned Milani in their behind-the-scenes kits, particularly the Conceal Perfect foundation and their strobe light highlighters. And before Fenty launched in 2017, Milani's wide shade ranges were trending on Tumblr. So people were genuinely shocked that a drugstore brand carried 40 plus shades in a foundation. And in the mid-2010s, Milani swapped its older black plastic compacts for sleek gold packaging, and the sales spiked. People actually thought that the brand had gone high-end overnight, but now that's part of their visual trademark of their Milani products. So I'll end this episode with a quote from our girl, CEO Mary. You can fill your entire makeup bag for $50 with Milani. There aren't many things you can buy for $50 anymore, so it creates a moment of joy. Our tagline is inclusive, not exclusive. So those were the Chronicles of Milani. What do you think of the brand? Do you have a personal favorite? Have you ever tried their baked formula? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. Thank you for tuning in, and please feel free to share some of the brands that you'd like to see covered on this podcast. And I always forget to say this, but please don't forget to rate, subscribe, share with other beauty nerds who would be interested in hearing these deep dives. I'm so happy that people are even listening. I thought for a while it would just be my mom. Hi, Mom, which would be fine. I would make this podcast just for my mom, but I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're interested in listening to this. I'll see you next time on the Cosmetic Chronicles.